Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Asaya Nagor and this is Ordained Essence. Today's video, we're going to be talking about when business gets personal. And so what that means is that sometimes we mix the lines between our personal feelings and business. A lot of the times business has no feelings. It's straight up, it's straight to the point. And personal is when we kind of have our emotions involved, our relationships involved. And so today we're going to pretty much be talking about how that starts, how that is going to affect your business in the long run. So with that being said, we're going to dive right into it. In childcare, you have to be some sort of an empath, to be honest with you. Like, you really have to care about kids. You have to care about families to successfully be in this business. I would have families that would, come in and, they'll tell me a sob story or ask me for a favor because maybe there was X reasons as to why they couldn't do certain things. And so they're relying on me to get this done for them. Not only was I navigating outside families who I've never met, or maybe they knew me from a different setting or school or church. I was navigating all these different relationships. I was navigating my own family relationships all within this business, right? Because I'm taking care of people's kids. So if you had a kid, we were working together. I was the one that really didn't set in stone or really draw a clear line between what I'll do for you as a daycare provider and what I'll do for you because, oh, I'm the auntie or I'm your sister, whatever the case was. As I was bending over backwards and doing all these things and making all these sacrifices for other people, it came a point where I was getting spread thin. And I quickly realized that as quick as someone was to ask me for something, they weren't as quick to return the favor. I felt like if I didn't do what they asked me to do, that they would get upset with me. They would think I was mean. I was doing daycare, so like maybe they would just be like, you know what, I'm going to take my kids somewhere else. I was really trying to avoid all of those issues. I was trying to be non-confrontational. I thought those things because I didn't see the value in myself. I didn't see the value in what I was offering. And so I felt like any inconvenience to them would just make them be like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna leave. I lack boundaries. I was letting people do whatever they wanted, whatever they asked me to do. I was saying yes and agreeing to it, even though I knew I was spread so thin. I started to realize that saying no for me was pretty hard. I couldn't figure out how to tell someone I didn't want to do it. I feel like I needed to have a sob story back to them. I feel like I needed to over explain as to why I couldn't do something instead of just realizing like a no is a no and it is what it is. No one should be giving you pushback about that. And if they are, then that's kind of like a red flag in my opinion, especially if it's supposed to be someone that cares about you. But at the time, I wasn't really understanding that. When you are a naturally loving and giving person, you tend to attract vultures. You tend to attract people who don't have any boundaries on asking, who don't have any boundaries on taking. If you are that type of person, you will find yourself in situations where people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to try to take as much as they can from you until basically you tell them no. They're the type of person that they are, and you're the type of person that you are. And so at the end of the day, because people need us, because people want whatever it is from us, we have to be the ones to have those boundaries to say no. Back to what we were saying about mixing business and personal. You get to a point where now you have family, friends, and these other families all mixed in this business. And you're dealing with someone's children. So I always let the parents know right off the top that we have to have some sort of relationship. It kind of blurred the lines a little bit because you want to have a relationship, but you don't want it to be too personal to where it's like, okay, now we don't have a professional line here. I started to have professionalism lack between my family. Like I said, I had sisters, and so they were bringing their children to my daycare, and we lacked professionalism when it came to that. It was just like, you're kind of taking advantage of the situation because you're mixing personally what I would do as an auntie versus me as a daycare provider or as a childcare director. And that is when the issue started to occur. Same thing when it came to staff. A lot of the times when my family were on hard times, or maybe they were in between jobs, things like that, and they needed some income, I would be like, yeah, for sure, you can work for me, because I needed people around me who I could trust. Of course, did everything that they were required to do by licensing and stuff to be there. As a staff member, lines were being blurred because we lacked professionalism in that department, because they felt like, oh, I could be late. oh, I really don't feel like doing that right now. I do not feel like changing that diaper. Like, I do not feel like cleaning up these toys, yada, yada, yada. Where it was just like, okay, we're lacking professionalism here and you're taking advantage of the situation because I'm your sister or I'm related to you in whatever fashion. And that started to kind of frustrate me a little bit. You're kind of just disregarding my own struggles and my job because you're taking advantage of the situation in our relationship. It was just blurring the lines of professionalism and making it confusing on how I should carry out my duty as a leader and a director, and then their duty to me as a staff member or an enrolled family. It was just confusing, and it was just becoming kind of just disrespectful. It was coming unprofessional, and I'm trying to be a businesswoman, and so it just was not working out. It was causing issues. It was creating conflict between me and these people. We've had arguments. We would have disputes, and it would just become uncomfortable. I should not be feeling uncomfortable in my own space. I created a business. I did this so that way I can run things the way that I would like to run them, not to run them the way you want them ran. This is the program. Either you want to be a part of my program or you don't. There's no, tweak it like this and switch it like this to fit you. No, this is what I have going on. Either you feel like this fits you too, or it doesn't. Hold up, I'm getting confused because this is my program. This is my stuff. I had to start to kind of turn that switch on when it came to like my boss energy and then like my personal energy. I separate the two when it came to operating my business. So it got to a point where boundaries needed to be made. Whatever was stressing me out, whatever was causing me issues, I needed to create some sort of boundary to negate that situation. So it'll be like communication hours. It'll be like cut off at drop off time. It'll be, the kids can't bring this certain food in. I'm not going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Don't wear this today. Like I had my own rules, my own policies. I had even created a parent handbook that went into detail about every single rule, every single policy, every single expectation that I had at my daycare. I had them sign a contract on that. So that way they were aware that they received said handbook and they read it and they were going to follow all of the rules. Once I had my boundaries set, I honestly thought problem solved. They already know what the expectation is. Anything outside of this is literally at the convenience or at the leniency of the director. Case by case scenario. My job here is done. They're going to know what to do and what not to do. Once you create your boundaries, you then soon find out that people like to push against your boundaries. You then find out that people want to find a way around the boundary. And it's like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you purposely trying to stress me out? That's when I realized like, okay, not only do you need to have the boundaries, but you have to constantly carry out the boundary. And what I mean by that is like, let's say, for example, at daycare, we had a drop off time. Daycare families, whoever, just dropping the children off at any time of the day, sleeping in till 1 o'clock and dropping the kid off at 3, like just random craziness. And I'm like, we're running a program here. So you're disrupting the program. Your kid then came in at 10, 11 o'clock. They didn't sleep in all day. They're not about to take a nap in 2 hours. Like, you know what I mean? So it was just completely stressing me out, stressing my staff out, whatever. And I had to create that boundary of a drop-off time. So drop-off time is 9 o'clock. Now, of course, like I said, people like to push against the boundary. They just couldn't get there at 9 o'clock. They're coming after 9 is what they're letting me know. So then I had to have follow-up. Now, of course, am I going to just remove a kid or remove a family because they're late one time? Do I just want to expel you? No, obviously that's inconvenient. But at the same time, I need you to be aware that the cutoff time is 9 o'clock. So I had to start doing follow through. And I opened the door like, hey, I'm glad you guys made it into daycare today. But, just a reminder, daycare, the drop-off time is 9 o'clock. So just moving forward, if you guys can get here by 9 o'clock, I would greatly appreciate it. No consequence involved. No, nothing. Just reminding them like, hey, I need you to be here at 9. I had to keep doing that. Then it got to a point where they just, got comfortable with the reminder. Like that wasn't a big deal to them anymore. Like, oh, okay, yeah. We know. We'll be here at 9. Okay. Then they started being to where they would thought it was better to communicate that they were going to be late, which is, I guess, helpful. I'm glad that you're communicating that you're still coming, but that's still not helping the fact that you're still late. That's still not helping the fact that you're putting your child behind. That's still not helping the fact that now I got to stop my class and holding the babies and all these things to come and open the door to greet you and your child who's now having a tantrum because they don't want you to leave. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, we're having a whole issue with that. Parents were not understanding. I had to keep following through on the boundary. I had to keep following through on the boundary. I had to keep making a rule for the boundary until we get to a point where not only do you need to create the boundary, not only do you need to follow up on the boundary, but once you get done, once you've been reminded and have followed up on that boundary with said family or person so many times, it gets to a point where now we need a consequence, because I've given you opportunity to get used to the boundary. Sometimes we're creatures of habit. Sometimes you just need to get used to this new habit that this person is forming. That's fine. But once we kind of have given time for that, once we have given time for you to at least show effort that you're trying to respect said boundary, there's no more excuses at that point. So it's like either you're going to follow the rules or there's going to be a consequence. You know, like if you just can't respect it, if you just can't get on board, then maybe this just isn't going to be the daycare for you. You know what I mean? If you just can't seem to get here on time, maybe you should have to, maybe it's best that you find a daycare that's closer to your home. Whatever the case may be, it had to get to a point where boundary, follow through, consequence. You can't skip any of those steps. Like, you can't have the boundary, never like check the person, never remind them, never let them know like, no, this is still my boundary. You can't skip that part, because if you just go from boundary to consequence, now you're the problem. Like, if we just go from, oh, I said that you guys can I said that no late drop-offs, but you never said anything anytime they were late, and now that became their habit that they're just late, regardless of that you said it was a boundary. It's clearly not a boundary, because there's no problem. You never said anything. There was never any consequence, and there was never any discomfort about them disrespecting the boundary. So then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? This isn't going to work out. They're going to look at you like, what do you mean? What do you mean this isn't going to work out? I've been doing this for years and you haven't said a thing. Now you're the problem. And technically you are the problem, because you should have said something. You should have reminded them like, hey, I just want to let you be aware that you're disrespecting my boundary, and I'm going to have to remind you to get back on track with the boundary. You know what I mean? If you never do that, if you don't do it consistently, then you're going to still be the problem. You have to follow through. You have to stand 10 toes down on that boundary, whether that's reminding them, whether that's telling them no, whether that's immediately giving them a consequence. However you want to go about that is the way that you're going to go about it. You know what I mean? But for me personally, I was a very lenient person. I was a very understandable person that, okay, I get it. Sometimes you're going to be late. I get it. Sometimes things may pop up. You might have a family situation. You're not going to be on time all the time. And that's another thing. You have to track records of people. Pay attention to that. So anyways, you have to do that follow through. You can't go from boundary and then jump all the way to consequence without at least giving someone a chance to correct it. At least give them a chance to get on board with what you're trying to, put a boundary on. Some boundaries require immediate get on board with, and some require a little bit more of a habitual routine to form first. And with my set example, I was giving the parents some time to get a routine, because that's just, we're creatures of habit. I understood that. So, okay, yes, you're showing up on 9:05. I'm not going to be petty and not open the door for you. You're showing up at 9:07. Okay. Every day though, and once I started to realize, like, okay, every day you're still late. Every day you're still not here on time. Now that's a problem. You're going to be, now I'm going to follow through with my boundary. Hey, like I said, you're late. We can't have that. It's already been X amount of times that you've been late. So, moving forward, if this happens again, either we're just going to have to end enrollment, or I'm just going to have to just have you guys turn back around and go home. Whatever that was, that's what the consequence was going to be. And you have to do the same thing with yourself. So once you kind of have that process flowing smoothly, eventually people will fall in line. Boundaries aren't meant to push people away. They're meant to allow others to love you correctly, to show you respect the way that you want to be respected. That's all it is. And if a person can't do that, that just kind of lets you know right then and there that they're not supposed to be in your life. They're not supposed to be as close to you as you would probably like them to be. And that's just the truth. Boundaries are honestly protection. They let you know who's willing to love you and who's just here to play with you. And you have to be the one to love yourself enough to follow through on your own boundaries. Like I said, you can't be saying that this is the rule, you're not going to tolerate X, Y, and Z, but then go back and fold on it. Like, you can't do that. No one's going to respect you. No one's going to take you seriously. Anytime you say something, they're going to be like, oh, she doesn't mean what she says. And they're going to keep doing whatever it is that they want to do. And all that's going to do is leave you frustrated, annoyed, and resentful. And that's not a place that you want to be. Also, if you're trying to grow as a person, if you're trying to move forward in life, boundaries are going to be extremely important, because like I said, you're going to start to realize that working with adults, working with people in general, a lot of people are not good people, and boundaries are going to be the first way that you discern a situation, are going to be the first way you filter bad people out. And if people cannot respect your boundaries, if people cannot respect what you have formed for yourself, then they have to go. They have to, because all they're going to do is disrupt your program. All they're going to do is disrupt all your inner peace and everything that you have going on. And we don't want that. We need to have a smooth running machine. Boundaries, they don't keep love out. They keep chaos out. Okay? Anybody who cares about you, anybody who respects you, they're going to respect your boundaries. And that's what we kind of have to start to realize and accept. Anybody that's constantly like trying to persuade you out of your boundary, anybody that's constantly trying to go around it or negate it or anything like that, that person is not good for you. And you should discern them. You should be observant of their behavior, and you should eventually get to some sort of consequence or conclusion on that person, because all that's going to do is cause issues for you. And I feel like God is literally showing you the red flag right there. Because if you don't love yourself, nobody will. If you don't have boundaries for yourself, nobody will. You just have to practice setting your own boundaries and practice being comfortable with saying no. And remember that no is a complete sentence. You don't need to elaborate. You don't need to over-explain. If the answer is no, the answer is no. In order for us to, create this balance in our life, we have to be able to say yes and say no. That's the balance of things. You can't just say yes, 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 yes all the time and never say no. That's like a completely imbalanced cup. There's nothing wrong with me being a loving person. There's nothing wrong with me wanting to take care of other people and be there for them and, extend myself however I want to extend myself. The problem comes in is when I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to receive. Okay? The problem comes in when I can only give out and nothing is coming back to me. He would not want to give me all of these blessings and then come to find out that I don't know how to manage them. He would not want to give me all of these opportunities and come to realize that, okay, you don't even know how to discern a situation that keep the good and remove the bad. This has been honestly a personal battle for me, because it's tough and no one really, like, if you're just not that kind of person, no one really talks about how tough it is, but it's really tough. Like, I can't just straight up be like, F you, I don't care how you feel. That's not me. I couldn't also just be like, it's all about you and I don't care about me, because that's not true. I love myself too. So I had to literally find the balance in being a loving person, but also being a person who knows when their cup is becoming depleted and needs a moment to refill it back up. When it comes to family and business, you want to just basically create those boundaries and remind them that, like, hey, I know that we're family. I know, you guys care about me and I care about you. But the reality is, like, I'm trying to, be consistent. I'm trying to set the tone for whatever it is that you're doing. And I need you as my family member, as the person who says they love me, to respect what I have going on. And if you don't, that's okay. Maybe this just isn't the business for you. Maybe this isn't the opportunity for you to be involved. But, I'm letting you know that because we're a family, we should be able to have this conversation and it should be respected immediately. That's all that really needs to be said. And if you're able to do the 3 steps that we talked about earlier with having the boundary, following through on the boundary, and then eventually, if necessary, have a consequence for broken boundaries, then honestly, you'll be fine. You're going to have to get comfortable with the fact that some people are going to be upset that you say no. You're going to have to get comfortable with that. Some people are maybe going to remove their business from you because you say no. But don't look at that as a negative thing. Look at that as a way of being like, okay, you're removing the negativity from your life. You're removing who doesn't belong out of your life. Because if they did belong, they would get with the program, right? Hanging on to it is only going to cause you more stress down the line. It doesn't get easier. Trust me. It's going to get worse. Okay? Let them go if they need to be let go. My camera died, so I had to finish recording on a different device. But anyways, I just pretty much wanted to wrap the video up and say that boundaries are there to help us. In the beginning, it's going to be a little bit tough. It's going to be a little hard to, consistently carry out these boundaries, because boundaries do make other people uncomfortable, but you soon realize that they're important, and it's going to reveal to you who's important in your life and who deserves to still be there, and who you need to start filtering out. Remind yourself that the boundaries that you have are not extra, they're not dramatic. You're not doing it for no reason. You're not doing it just to be difficult and cause problems or anything. They're there for a reason. So in being consistent on setting that boundary can be a little difficult to be consistent with, and to, stand 10 toes down on, because like I said, you don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. You don't want people to be upset or annoyed or confused over the reasons that you have boundaries. But honestly, it's really not for them to understand. It's really not for them to sit here and go back and forth about. Your rule is your rule. Don't talk yourself out of a reason that you have a boundary just because it doesn't make sense to someone else. Continue to protect yourself. Continue to protect your energy. Do not be a respecter of persons, whether that's your family, whether that's friends or people at work or whatever. It should be the same all across the board. If you have a boundary that needs to be respected, everybody should be respecting that boundary. Obviously depending on what it is and where it's at. But everybody should be respecting that boundary. Family doesn't, just because they're your family does not mean they have the right to disrespect you. Does not mean that they have the right to disregard your rules and the stipulations that you have set for your life. It should not be like that. If anything, family should be the main ones that are considerate and that are understanding of the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. But I guess the main focus of this video was to really get into trying not to be confused when it comes to boundaries and who boundaries apply to. They apply to everybody. And at the end of the day, just because you have a business does not mean that family should just be allowed to break that boundary. Like we were saying at the beginning or the middle of the video, you should have your boundary, you should follow through on that boundary, and then there should be a consequence if it's not respected. And that should be for anybody. The sooner that you do that, the easier it is for people to get with the program. You do that, the better, because if that's all they ever knew, if that's all they're ever aware of about you, the easier. You don't want it to be like, oh, this person lets me spend the night at their house all the time. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you don't want nobody spending the night at your house. That's going to be a little harder for them to adjust to. It's going to take some time. So give people some grace, give people some time. But let's say you just met a friend and you already let them know, like, oh no, people don't spend the night at my house. Then that's all they're going to ever know you to be. Like, oh, she never wants people to spend the night at her house. So this isn't new that we can't spend the night at her house. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's just a little example, something small. But it shouldn't catch people off guard. The easier it is for people to get with the program. So the sooner that you learn yourself, the sooner that you understand what works for you and what you want people to consistently respect about you, the easier it is for new people to come in, the same people who are in your life to kind of get adjusted, and for things to run as smoothly as possible. Like I said, you want to protect yourself, you want to protect your peace, you want to protect all of the blessings, and the only way that you're going to do that is with a boundary. A boundary puts up a wall, like no, do not enter, no, do not cross, and we need those. Protect your peace and energy. God has really shown me that peace is a part of my purpose, and we can't have peace where there's no order. So I'm going to continue to reinforce my boundaries. I'm going to continue to really make sure that I'm being consistent and standing 10 toes down on what it is that I believe and that I want for my life. And I'm hoping that, those that I love and care about are going to join me on the ride and respect the ride. If this video resonated with you at all, go ahead and drop a comment below and let us know, what boundary it is that you're trying to keep or enforce, and let us know how that's working for you. Go ahead, like and subscribe, and we hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.
She on like that, she on the right track. She came to slay, she ain't come to play. She handling the shit, she gon' hit you right back. She came to slay, she ain't come to play.